And what is a real home? A real home is where you have control of the door, the people in your home, and coming and going from your home, and what happens in your home, right?
Welcome to the 14th episode of Accessibility Now, stories about accessibility in Georgia. Accessibility Now is a podcast produced by the statewide Independent Living Council of Georgia. I'm your host, Desi Gillespie, and today we're stepping outside the silk system to speak with Cheri Mitchell, an advocate with the Georgia Advocacy Office. They're a legal organization that helps people with a variety of cases and claims related to the fight for people with disabilities to live independently. This January marked Cheri's 18th year at the GAO. Recently, we sat down to talk about the work she and her colleagues have done there.
A lot of my work is made up of nursing transition. I help people to get out, and that's pretty, involved, because the biggest problem that people have is they don't know what services are available, because there is money follows the person. And so we help them to connect with those. And then if we find any systemic issues of any kind, whether it be nursing transition, home and community-based health care, whatever, we find any kind of systemic issues that is segregating people with disabilities, that might be something that our office might take on. We work person by person, it's case by case. We also help people with employment. The thing about it is, our office is a great place to start. We have a program called Resource Advocates. It's kind of like our intake department. But if you don't know where to go and you don't know what to do, that's a great place you can call and ask for help, because we might not take your case, but we will tell you where you can find help. We do refer to the SEALs a lot, because SEALs are great places, and particularly for people with disabilities who need to work on their independent skills. SEALs, they have independent living training for people with disabilities that is so incredible helpful. All the Centers for Independent Living are a great bunch of people. I started out actually working for a Center for Independent Living. I was doing the nursing transition for them when they got the Real Changes grant. So we were like the precursor to Money Follows the Person. Before my disability, I actually worked in housing. I worked in property management. So I was already working with people with disabilities and the elderly. And I have now for 25 years. I have a physical disability that I aged into at I was like in my 30s, and I am what I affectionately called a hot chick on wheels. So yeah, so that's how I get it. I'm I'm just like everybody else, doing the best I can.
Like she said, and like the folks at SILS, a lot of Cheri's work revolves around housing, actually getting people into independent living situations. We've talked about the issues facing people with disabilities in that area, but Cheri has had a first-hand look at the problems that existed and continue to exist after the introduction of the Money Follows the Person policy.
When you're in a nursing facility, we end up there for multiple reasons. But once they get there, the simple things like just trying to get out, because the system is set up where once you get there, if you're on Social Security, they take all your money but $75. And trying to get out with $75, I spend that much a month on hair care products. Okay. So how do you get an apartment? How do you pay a deposit? You can't. And thus, that was the reason that National Adapt fought so hard for Money Follows the Person. And I'm happy to say that they got it. We have it here in Georgia, and it's a great resource because it will pay for things like deposits and first month's rent, and it will buy them things like furniture and furnishings. But some of the barriers that those people face is just having a birth certificate, right? Because there is certain paperwork that is required when you're applying for housing. Those are some of the basic issues that people in nursing facilities face. We do some housing, but it's on a limited basis. We don't actually have money or apartments, but I've got 25 years experience of helping people with disabilities find housing. Up until the end of this year, I was teaching a monthly housing class. Now I'm rolling those back to quarterly. And so the first one's going to be in January. And in that, we talk about Section 8. What are all the entry points, you know, and what are the different types of Section 8? Because if you don't understand how a system works, you can't make it work for you, right? A lot of people, I tell them you need a twofold strategy. You need your long term goal should be income based housing. And that means getting on those waiting lists, right? And if you have a voucher, that means finding a property that will accept it. A lot of people think that all they need is a voucher and they've got housing. And actually, no, that's not correct. Getting a voucher is only half of the solution. The other part is finding a place that will accept the voucher. And then there are a lot of people, and we have more that don't have a voucher. You need income based housing. So now you're looking at the type of Section 8 that is property based, where you apply and get on a waiting list, right? But if you don't ever get on the waiting list, you won't ever get to the top of the list. You won't ever find housing. And then we promote a short term goal of getting a roof over your head you can afford. Once they get out in the community, I knew a guy that once he got out, he didn't leave his house. And I was like, why aren't you leaving your house? And he's like, I'm scared I'll get lost. And I'm like, no. I referred him to the Center for Independent Living, and he got some mobility training. He started going there and feeling more comfortable. And as he became more comfortable, the more he tried venturing out from his home, right? Until he had a life, and was doing things like meeting people at the mall, going to Walmarts. But if you have a goal, the Centers for Independent Living are a great place to go to figure out how to meet that goal.
In addition to housing, Cheri works with the GAO's advocacy programs for individual rights, assistive technology, and Social Security. She says that every program at GAO is a key part of helping people with disabilities to live the lives they deserve.
We had a young lady that started about a year ago with us, and I told her, I said, we do our work from the place is that we're trying to help people have good lives, right? That's how I do my work. And when I start working with someone, I will talk to them, get to know them. And if I figure out other ways that I can help them, I will, because this is my community, and I want to help people. I do this job. I'm not getting rich doing this job. Okay. So that means I'm doing it for another reason, and that's that I actually care. And, this is my life too. When I help people when I go into nursing facilities, I know that I am one sickness away from being there myself, right? Nursing transition is really important to me. I have complex health issues. And so, yeah, I feel the urgency of that situation. Helping people to find real homes is important to me. And what is a real home? A real home is where you have control of the door, the people in your home, and coming and going from your home, and what happens in your home, right? And what your home looks like. One of the things that I enjoyed the most was decorating my home, right? and you should have control of all of that. And that's a real home. That's my definition, the world according to Cheri.
And that mission affects everyone. As someone with an age related disability, Cheri knows that better than most.
You might be 95 before it happens, but you will have a disability at some point in your life. The community has a nickname for, and it's not nice. It's called TABS, temporarily able bodied. But it's the truth. This is I think the reason why we have so many problems with getting services and stuff is that people don't understand that our issues are their issues. Live long enough, you will be a person of disability. You might be 95 before it happens, but Medicaid buy-in is going to become important to you, particularly if you have an income over SSI, right? And attendant care is going to become your issue. You're going to need some assistance. And I don't care what anybody says to me. I've been in enough nursing facilities to realize that the community is better, and money follows the person has proved that it's better and cheaper to medicate for people to live in the community, right? The savings to Medicaid is there. The statistics are there to support it, that it's a higher quality of care. I mean, because come on, what are we talking about here? Home and community-based healthcare, attendant care, is a one-on-one service, right? Where nursing facilities is a form of mass care. You've got like 1 to 20 caregivers, I think is the average in Georgia. One person to 20 people. That's mass care.
There are several other programs at the GAO, ones Cheri doesn't work with, but nevertheless mean a lot to her and the people they serve. Here she is, celebrating the work they do.
We have a program called Citizen Advocacy, and what they do is people with developmental disabilities, they match them up with someone in the community because people make the difference. There was a lady who was our PAMI director for years, and she was a wonderful self-advocate. She actually worked for Centers for Independent Living in Connecticut before coming to Georgia. And she taught me, and she said, Cheri, all the meds in the world, there's nothing wrong with that. It helps. But people is the real key. People is what makes the difference. That's always stuck with me because the thing is, the key to real success in the community for people who have really complex disabilities, high level disabilities, you have to realize that in people's lives, they have two types of supports. You've got your natural supports, which are the people that are in your life because they want to be there, right? Then you've got your paid supports, which is like the attendant care and the case manager and the doctor and all those people, right? But it's those people, those natural supports that keep people safe, number one, because they hold these paid supports accountable. And number two, they help people to see people as valuable. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't see people with disabilities as people, particularly when they're caught in a system, a service system. They can end up being what we affectionately call it at ADAPT as cash cows. So when you have people who are in people's life because they want to be there, people tend to see the value of that person. We're helping to create valued social roles for them. And it tends to help make this other side, the paid supports, number one, do a better job, be accountable, keep that person safe, and help move that person's life forward and make sure that they get the services and supports that they need, right? And they're also more successful in the community. So that's the idea and the premises behind citizen advocacy, having more natural supports for people. Because the people who are volunteering with our citizen advocacy program, they're not getting paid to do that. They do that because they care about people. And then our PAVA, Protection and Advocacy for Voting Access, also known as HAVA, the Help America Vote Act. That's where that funding comes from. We run a hotline on election day. We do voter education. We promote voter registration. Every so many years, the whole National Disability Rights Network, which is our national version, they, along with Self-Advocates Becoming Empowered, work on a report about what was the voting experience. So we were asked to do surveys, get people with disabilities in Georgia to do surveys so that they can hear what happened in Georgia and add it to all the other states and write a national report on that. I think it's very important to figure out what is happening across the United States and making sure that people with disabilities get to practice full citizenship because, Justin Dart's famous saying, vote like your life depends on it, because it does. Because these people are deciding what programs exist, what programs get funded, how much funding it gets. It's important. I really think that one of the first things that a self-advocate should be doing is voting. If you're going to practice self-determination, which is having a voice and having a choice, the very first thing you should be doing is voting. And if you don't, then, from where I'm sitting, and again, this is the world according to Cheri, you are giving away your self-determination. Voting matters. It really does.
After so many good years at the GAO, retirement is coming up for Cheri, but she's not looking to slow down anytime soon.
My husband and I last year, because I'm coming up on retirement, I am like a year and 1 month away from retirement, but I'm not the type of girl to sit and do nothing. So last year, my husband and I started a business, and it's called Inclusive Media Inc. INK, like an ink pen.com. I am married to Jerome Lawrence, and Jerome Lawrence is first of all, in his own right, he's a mental health advocate, but he is also this fabulous painter. So he actually has 2 paintings hanging at the Carter Center. He has donated paintings to the Carter Center, and over the years, his paintings have raised like $500,000 for the Carter Center. And then last year, I wrote 3 children's books because I'm a grandma. So I wrote 3 children's books, and we self-published on Amazon. We also make short, what I call social media videos. We just did some things for Self-Advocates Becoming Empowered. And we actually made a video for the Silk on enable work. I so totally believe in enable work. This affects my life. And I'm sure a lot of other people, because until Georgia has a real Medicaid buy-in program where workers with disabilities can pay for a portion of their own Medicaid and keep their attendant care, we're all segregated into poverty because you can't make over a certain dollar amount and keep those services, right?
As you might be able to tell by Cheri not being able to talk about retirement without getting back into advocacy, she's far from done. Special thanks to Cheri for speaking with us about her storied career in advocacy and the great work going on at the GAO. And thank you for listening to Accessibility Now, stories about accessibility in Georgia. Accessibility Now is a podcast produced by the statewide Independent Living Council of Georgia. If you want to find out more about that organization, you can visit us at silkga.org. That's silcga.org. This has been your host, Desi Gillespie, and I just want to close by reminding you that a Georgia that includes everyone is better for all of us.